Protestant Reformation, A Modern Tale. Made by Haley Edmondson, Savannah Ulrich, Elise Matheson, Krista Sullivan, and Jana Mustafa. The Reformation. The 95 Theses, written by Martin Luther, questioned the power of the Church. He flatly denied that indulgences had any power to remit sin, criticized the power of the Pope, and the wealth of the Church leaders. The 95 Theses was originally written for Church officials so they could think about how they were running the Church. Luther shared his theses by nailing them on church doors because church doors served as a community bulletin board. With the new printing press recently invented, his ideas had spread all over Europe for them to pin on their church doors. The ideas expressed in the theses made people angry and questioned the Church, and the desire for reform grew. Indulgences. Pope Leo X started selling indulgences so St. Peter's Basilica could be constructed from the money raised. Huge, violent, and aggressive lines formed so they could receive indulgences from the Pope. Martin Luther saw the selling of indulgences as sinful and stated that the indulgences would not reduce sin. Eventually, they were another reason people believed the Church had too much power, even though they made people less angry for a while. Indulgences were pardons issued by the Pope to reduce a soul's time in purgatory. For about 1,000 years, Catholics believed that after death people went to purgatory, where their souls cleared themselves and worked off various sins. Indulgences allowed them to go straight to heaven. Edict of Worms. In 1520, Pope Leo X expelled Luther from the Church. In 1521, Martin Luther was called on to appear before Charles V and the German Assembly at the city of Worms. Luther's opinions would not change. This led up to the Holy Roman Emperor handing down the Edict of Worms. This declared Luther an outlaw and condemned his writings. Revolt. Catholics throughout Europe grew angry because of indulgences, the 95 Theses written by Martin Luther, the Edict of Worms that announced Luther an outlaw and a heretic, and various other things that made them question the power of the Church. Once Catholic turned Protestant, people protested and angry mobs came before the Church to question their authority. All of these things fueled the Reformation. Edict of Nantes. The leader of the Huguenots accepted the Christian religion, and the Edict of Nantes was made. This let the Huguenot peoples have religious freedom all throughout France. Henry IV of France signed this edict in 1598. Other religions. Martin Luther founded Lutheranism. Lutheranism believes in two sacraments: baptism, which initiates a person into the Christian faith, and Holy Communion, which gifts the one receiving it with the forgiveness and mercy of God. John Calvin founded Calvinism on the doctrine of predestination, which is the belief that God decides if you will be saved amongst the people. In other words, he decides if you belong in heaven or hell before they're even born, meaning there is nothing you can do in your lifetime to change that. Ulrich Zwingli established a church in Switzerland that was founded on theocracy. Theocracy is a government where church and state are joined and officials are divinely inspired. Henry VIII and the family. Henry VIII became the King of England in April of 1509. Henry had only one daughter, Mary, with his first wife, Catherine. He knew the importance of a male heir, so he asked Pope Clement VII for an annulment from Catherine. In 1533, Henry broke away from the church because the Catholic Church would not allow an annulment. This broke the church into two separate groups, and he became head of his own council. In his third marriage, he finally had a son, Edward, who became the king at the age of 7. Edward had always been a very sick child, and he died at the young age of 15. After Edward's death, Henry's first daughter came to the throne, Mary. Mary was raised strongly Catholic from her mom, Catherine. So Mary changed England from Protestant to Catholic, and she burned Protestants by the stake, hence the name Bloody Mary. Mary died due to an influenza epidemic in 1558. After her death, Elizabeth I took the throne. Elizabeth was raised strongly Protestant by her mother Anne Boleyn, Henry's second wife. So she changed England's religion back to Protestant during her reign. The Counter-Reformation. The Council of Trent. The Council of Trent played an important part in determining the outcome of the Counter-Reformation. Pope Paul III called together the Council of Trent when he recognized the need to redefine the doctrines of the Catholic faith. Delegates met to examine the criticism that Protestants made about Catholic doctrine and address abuses that weakened the Church. Most importantly, the Council of Trent rejected the Protestants' emphasis on self-discipline and individual faith. The Inquisition. A major issue that the Church faced was increasing heresy, beliefs that opposed the official teachings of the Catholic Church. The Inquisition was a legal procedure held by Catholic judges to try suspected heretics. Accused people came before the court, and anyone found guilty was punished by the authorities. The following scenes were inappropriate to show due to the violence displayed. The Resolution. By the end of the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation, Europe went from a country united under one religion with a church they could look up to into a country divided religiously and a weak Catholic Church with stronger monarchs. It wasn't for decades that Europe had religious toleration on both sides, Protestant and Catholic.